You wake up on a Tuesday morning, and for the first time in 40 years, there's nowhere you have to be. No alarm, no commute, no meeting at 9, just the hum of the refrigerator and the light coming through the kitchen window at an angle you've never noticed before. You pour your coffee and sit down at the table, and that's when it hits you. Not relief, not joy, not even sadness exactly. Just a question you can't quite name yet. Nobody tells you how quiet retirement really sounds. They talk about freedom and golf and travel, but they don't mention the strange weight of an empty calendar or the way time moves differently when no one needs you at a specific place at a specific hour. It's not the silence that unsettles you. It's the question hiding inside it. Now what? By the end of this reflection, you'll see why that question isn't a problem to solve. It's an invitation. And the silence, it's not empty at all. It's the start of something new. Before we go any further, I want you to do something with me. Wherever you are right now, sitting in your favorite chair, walking, maybe lying in bed, just take a slow breath. In through your nose. Hold it and let it go. One more time. In, hold, release. Good. Because what we're about to talk about isn't a checklist or a fix, it's a reflection. And reflection requires space. So let's make some. For decades, you knew exactly who you were. You were the manager, the teacher, the consultant, the engineer. You were the one people call when something needed fixing, approving, or deciding. You had a title, a role, a place in the machinery of the world. And then one day you don't. Tom felt it first at the grocery store. He'd been a high school principal for 32 years, the kind of man who knew every student's name, who could diffuse a fight in the hallway with just a look. 3 months into retirement, he was buying oranges on a Thursday afternoon when he ran into a former colleague. They chatted. She asked what he was up to, and Tom opened his mouth to answer and realized he didn't know what to say. "I'm adjusting," he told her. What he meant was, "I don't know who I am when I'm not that person anymore." This is the truth they don't tell you about leaving work behind. It's not just a job you're walking away from. It's a language, a rhythm, a version of yourself you've worn so long it feels like skin. And when you take it off, you're left standing there wondering what's underneath. You realize how much of your identity was borrowed, how many of your thoughts were shaped by what the job required you to think about. How many of your relationships were built around what you did, not who you were? Tom said the first few months felt like being invisible. He'd go to social gatherings and people would ask what he did, and he'd stumble. "I was a principal," he'd say, past tense, like he was introducing his own ghost. But here's what's also true. Underneath all of that is still you. The you that existed before the job title. The you that loved things and wondered about things and noticed things before you got too busy to pay attention. That person didn't disappear. They just got quiet. And now you have time to listen. Linda, a former CFO, told me she spent the first 6 months of retirement feeling like a ghost. She'd been the numbers person, the one who could look at a spreadsheet and tell you where the problems were hiding. Then she retired and suddenly no one needed her to be good at that anymore. She'd go to parties and people would ask what she did, and she'd feel herself shrink. "I was in finance," she'd say. Was, like she died and no one had noticed yet. But then one Saturday morning, she was sitting on her porch with her coffee, and she noticed the birds, really noticed them, the way they moved, the sounds they made. She watched a cardinal for maybe 10 minutes, just watching, and she realized she hadn't paid attention to birds in maybe 20 years, hadn't stopped to notice anything that didn't have a deadline attached to it. She thought, when did I stop noticing things? So she bought a field guide, started keeping a journal of what she saw. Nothing fancy, just noticing. And slowly, without even trying, she started to feel like someone again. Not a CFO, not a title, just Linda, a woman who noticed birds. Identity doesn't retire, it just stops shouting. And in the quiet, you get to decide what it whispers. We spend so much of our lives with purpose handed to us. Finish the project, meet the deadline, hit the numbers, raise the kids, pay the mortgage. Someone else sets the target and we aim. And then suddenly, no one's handing you anything. The first few weeks, it feels like freedom. Sleep in, read the paper, take a walk in the middle of the day just because you can. But after a while, the freedom starts to feel a little too loose, a little too formless. You start to wonder, if no one needs me to do anything, what should I be doing? This is where a lot of people panic. They sign up for everything. Volunteer boards, part-time gigs, classes, clubs, trying to fill the space with something, anything, because the alternative, sitting with the open-endedness of it all, feels too uncertain. Tom did this. He spent the first year saying yes to everything: community theater, coaching Little League, volunteering at the library, sitting on the HOA board. He was busy, and for a while that felt good. But about a year in, he was sitting in yet another HOA meeting, listening to two neighbors argue about mailbox colors for the third time. And he thought, I don't actually care about this. He realized, this isn't my purpose. I'm just filling time. Here's the truth. Purpose doesn't disappear when you retire. It just stops being assigned. And that's not a loss. It's a reclamation. For the first time in decades, you get to choose what matters. Not what you think you should care about, but what actually moves you. What makes you feel like yourself. Tom started saying no to the HOA, to the theater group, to most of the things he'd filled his calendar with. And then his grandson asked him to help build a treehouse. Tom, who'd spent 30 years managing budgets and staff meetings, found himself standing in the backyard with a hammer in his hand, teaching a 9-year-old how to measure twice and cut once. They worked on it for weeks, every Saturday. And one afternoon, when they were sitting up in the finished treehouse eating sandwiches, his grandson looked at him and said, "This is the coolest thing anyone's ever built for me." And Tom realized, this is what I want to be doing. Not because anyone asked him to, not because it was on a list or filled a need, but because it felt right. It felt like him. Purpose after 50 isn't about doing more. It's about doing what matters to you. Linda started tutoring math at a community center, not because she missed finance, but because she remembered being a kid who was afraid of numbers. She liked the quiet focus of helping someone understand something they'd been afraid of. She liked the moment when their face changed and they said, "Oh, I get it now." That's purpose, small, specific, chosen. You don't need a grand mission. You don't need to change the world. You just need to find the things that make you feel present, alive, like you're contributing something that only you can give. And here's the beautiful thing. You get to change your mind. You're not locked into anything. If you try something and it doesn't fit, you can stop. You can try something else. Tom's building tree houses now, teaching his grandson woodworking, sometimes helping neighbors with repairs, not because he's looking for work, but because he likes it, because it feels good to build something solid. Linda's still tutoring, but she's also painting now, and hiking, and learning Spanish just because she always wanted to. None of it is earth-shattering. None of it is going to change the world, but it's changing them. It's making their lives feel like theirs, like something they chose, not something that happened to them. And that's purpose. Remember when you used to say, I don't have time for that? When was the last time you said it? One of the strangest truths about life after 50 is that time, which used to be the scarcest resource you had, suddenly becomes abundant. And abundance, it turns out, can be just as disorienting as scarcity. Tom laughed when he told me about the first month. I'd wake up, make breakfast, read the paper, and it was only 8:30. I'd look at the clock and think, what do people do with all these hours? For 40 years, his days had been divided into blocks. Every minute accounted for, every hour assigned, and then suddenly nothing. Just time, hour after hour of it, stretching out like an empty highway with no exits in sight. You start noticing things you never noticed before, like how long a Tuesday actually is, how the grocery store is weirdly empty at 10 a.m. on a Wednesday, that you can drink your coffee slowly while it's still hot and the world doesn't end. Linda told me she forgot what day of the week it was for the first time in her life about 2 months in. She was getting dressed and realized she had no idea if it was Thursday or Saturday. And for a split second, she panicked. Then she laughed. Then she cried a little. Because it wasn't decline, it was just release. The release from having to know, from having to track, from having every day mean something different, demand something specific. But here's the truth. Time doesn't expand. It was always this big. You were just moving too fast to notice. And once you stop running, once you let yourself slow down enough to actually be in the hours instead of racing through them, something shifts. Time stops feeling like something you have to fill or manage or conquer. It starts feeling like space, like room to breathe. Tom started taking walks, not power walks, not exercise walks, just walks. Out the door and around the neighborhood, no destination, no pedometer. And he started seeing things he'd lived near for 20 years, but never really seen. The guy 3 houses down who's always working on his car. Tom started stopping to chat with him, learned his name was Ray, learned he was restoring a '68 Mustang, started offering to help sometimes. He noticed the couple who walked their dog at the same time every evening, a golden retriever named Sadie. After a few weeks, they started stopping to talk. Just neighbor talk. Weather, dogs, nothing important. But Tom looked forward to that small moment of connection. He noticed the way the light changed between 4 and 5 in the afternoon, how the shadows got longer, how the world seemed to soften right before evening. I used to think walking was wasted time, he said. Now I think it might be the best part of my day. This is what happens when time expands. You start living in it instead of through it. You stop measuring your day by what you accomplished and start measuring it by what you noticed, what you felt, who you talked to. Linda started sitting on her porch every morning with her coffee, just sitting, watching the world wake up. And she realized that in 40 years of working, she'd never seen dawn. Not really, not slowly. She'd always been rushing through it. Now she watches the sky change colors, watches the birds start their day, and she feels grateful, present, alive in a way she'd forgotten was possible. Yes, some days you'll still look at the clock at 2 in the afternoon and think, is this all there is? Some days the hours will feel heavy. Some days you'll miss the structure, the deadlines. But more and more, you'll find yourself in moments where time doesn't matter at all, where you're so present, so here, that you forget to check the clock entirely. And that's not emptiness, that's peace. Here's something nobody says out loud. When you stop being who you've always been, people get uncomfortable. They liked you the way you were, reliable, predictable, the one who always said yes, who handled things, who showed up. And when you start changing, when you start saying no, or choosing differently, or wanting something new, they don't always know what to do with that. Linda felt this acutely. She'd been the organizer, the planner, the one who hosted Thanksgiving, coordinated the family reunions, remembered everyone's birthdays. For 40 years, that was her role. And then, The first Thanksgiving after she retired, she said, "I'm not hosting this year." Silence on the phone. Her daughter finally said, "Oh, okay. Should we do it somewhere else?" "Yes," Linda said. "You should." She didn't say it to be difficult. She said it because she was tired, because she'd spent 4 decades making sure everyone else was happy and comfortable and fed, and she realized she didn't want to do it anymore. Not because she didn't love them, but because she wanted her time back. Some people understood, some didn't, and that was hard. But Linda told me something I've never forgotten. I realized I'd been living like I owed everyone my old self, like I had to keep being that person because that's who they expected. But I don't. I don't owe anyone a version of me that I've outgrown. You don't owe anyone your old self. You don't have to keep saying yes because you always have. You don't have to keep doing things the way you've always done them just because people are used to it. You're allowed to change, to want different things, to let go of roles that don't fit anymore. Tom stopped going to the monthly dinners with his old work friends, not because he didn't care about them, but because every time he went, they'd spend 2 hours rehashing the same old stories, the same complaints, the same drama from a world he wasn't part of anymore. And he'd come home feeling drained. So he stopped going. One of them called and said, "You're not coming anymore?" "No," Tom said. "I don't think so." "Why not?" And Tom thought about it, really thought about it. And he said, "Because I don't want to." It felt radical, it felt selfish, and it also felt honest. This is what happens in your 50s and beyond. You start running out of patience for things that don't matter. You start realizing that life is too short to spend it pretending, too short to keep being someone you're not, just because it's easier than explaining why you change. You're allowed to evolve, to outgrow, to become someone new, not because the old you was wrong, but because you're ready for something different. And the people who really love you, they'll adjust. They'll meet you where you are. And the ones who can't, that tells you something too. Tom told me that losing those monthly dinners made room for other things, better things. He started having coffee with Ray, the guy down the street with the Mustang. They'd sit in Ray's garage and talk about cars and grandkids and life. Real conversation, not performance. Linda started saying no to a lot of things. And at first it felt like loss, like she was shrinking her life. But then she realized she wasn't shrinking it. She was refining it, editing out the things that didn't fit so there was room for things that did. She joined a painting class, started hiking with a group of women she met at the community center, spent more time with the people who loved her for who she was, not what she did for them. And slowly the guilt faded. And what remained was a clearer, truer version of herself. You don't owe anyone your old self, not your kids, not your friends, not your community. You're allowed to change, and the people who matter will change with you. Here's the biggest truth they don't tell you. You're not going to find meaning, not like a treasure buried somewhere, waiting to be discovered, not like a door you just need to open. Meaning isn't something you find, it's something you make. And that's both terrifying and liberating, because it means there's no right answer. No instruction manual that says, do these 5 things and your life will feel complete. It means you have to decide. You have to choose. You have to build it piece by piece from the materials of your own life. Tom told me about a moment he had about a year into retirement. He was sitting in his backyard at dusk, watching the sky turn purple, and he thought, this is my life now. This is it. No one's going to hand me the next thing. It's just up to me. And instead of feeling lost, he felt something else. Relief, freedom, a kind of quiet power. He thought, I get to decide what matters. And he did. He decided building things mattered. Spending time with his grandkids mattered. Long conversations with his wife mattered. Not the quick check-ins they used to do between work and errands. but real conversations where they sat on the porch and talked about what they were thinking, what they were feeling, what they wanted from the years ahead. Slow Saturday mornings mattered. Watching the birds in his yard mattered. Helping Ray with the Mustang mattered. None of it was big. None of it was impressive, but it was his. It felt like the life he actually wanted to live, not the life he thought he should want. Linda started painting. She'd never painted before, had no talent for it really, but she liked the feeling of putting color on canvas, liked the way it made her pay attention, liked that she could do it badly and it didn't matter because no one was grading her. She said, "I spent my whole career being good at things. It's kind of amazing to do something I'm terrible at and just enjoy it anyway." This is what meaning looks like after 50. It's small, personal, often invisible to anyone else. It's not about achievement anymore. It's not about legacy or impact. It's quieter than that, more intimate. It's about building a life you don't need to escape from, a life that feels like yours, where the days don't all blur together, where you're present enough to notice what's happening. You make meaning by paying attention, by choosing what you let in, by saying yes to the things that make you feel alive and no to the things that drain you, by building rituals and rhythms that feel good. Linda has a morning ritual now: coffee on the porch, bird watching, then painting for an hour. It's not impressive, but it makes her days feel anchored, like they belong to her. Tom has Sunday mornings with his grandkids. They come over and he makes them breakfast, and they work on whatever project they're building. Those mornings feel sacred to him, like the best hours of his week. You make meaning by caring about something, anything, enough to show up for it, not because you have to, but because it matters to you. It doesn't have to be grand. It just has to be real. You make meaning by connecting, by having conversations that go deeper than small talk, by being present with the people you love. Tom said he and his wife have started taking evening walks together, just around the neighborhood, but they talk more on those walks than they did in months when he was working. Real talk about fears and hopes and who they want to be in this next chapter. "We were married for 30 years, and he said, but I feel like I'm getting to know her again." You make meaning by letting yourself change, by not clinging to who you were, by staying curious about who you're becoming. Linda said she thinks of herself as a beginner now, a beginner at painting, a beginner at having unstructured time, a beginner at being someone other than a CFO. "And that's okay," she said. "I don't have to be good at it yet. I just have to be willing to try." You make meaning by being honest, by stopping the performance, by letting yourself be imperfect and uncertain. Tom said one of the best things about retirement is that he doesn't have to pretend anymore, doesn't have to act like he has all the answers. "I can just be Tom," he said. Turns out that's enough. And the beautiful, terrifying truth is this: you're the only one who can do it. No one else can make your life meaningful. No one else can tell you what should matter to you. There's only your answer, the one you discover by trying things and noticing what resonates, by paying attention to what makes you feel alive. It's not a destination, it's a process. And the process is the point. You will make mistakes. You'll try things that don't work. You'll say yes to things you end up regretting and no to things you wish you tried. But that's okay. That's how you learn. That's how you figure out what's yours. Tom's building things. Linda's painting and hiking and tutoring. And somewhere else, someone's writing or gardening or volunteering or simply learning how to be still without feeling like they're wasting time. And all of it matters. All of it counts. Because meaning isn't out there waiting to be found. It's right here, in the choices you make, the attention you pay, the care you bring to the ordinary moments of your ordinary life. And when you start making meaning instead of looking for it, something shifts. The anxiety eases. The pressure lifts. You stop waiting for your life to begin and realize it's been here all along. You just had to slow down enough to notice. So let's come back to where we started. That Tuesday morning, the empty calendar, the hum of the refrigerator, the light coming through the window at an angle you'd never noticed before, the question you couldn't name yet. Now what? Here's what I want you to know. That question isn't a crisis. It's not a sign that something's wrong, or that you're lost, or that you've failed to plan properly. It's an invitation. An invitation to stop living on autopilot, to stop being who you've always been just because it's easier, to stop waiting for permission or instructions or the next assignment. It's an invitation to choose, to notice, to decide what matters, to build a life that feels like yours, not someone else's idea of what your life should look like, but yours. The silence isn't empty. It's full of possibility. And the empty calendar? That's not a void. That's space. Space to become whoever you're ready to be next. You don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to know the answer yet. You just have to be willing to sit with the question, to let it unfold, to trust that you'll find your way, one small choice at a time. Because you will. Tom's building tree houses and teaching his grandson that it's okay to take your time, to care about doing something well, even when no one's watching. Linda's painting badly and watching birds and tutoring kids who think they're not good at math. And somewhere, right now, someone else is figuring out their own version of this. Someone's planting a garden. Someone's volunteering at an animal shelter or learning guitar or taking a class just because it sounds interesting. Someone's calling an old friend they lost touch with. Someone's saying no to something they don't want to do. Someone's sitting on their porch with coffee, watching the morning arrive, and feeling grateful to have time to notice. All of it matters. All of it counts. Because meaning isn't measured in grand gestures, it's measured in moments, in the quality of your attention, in whether you're showing up for your own life or just going through the motions. You've spent decades showing up for other people, for your job, for your family, for your responsibilities. Now you get to show up for yourself, not in a selfish way, but in a way that says, my life matters, my time matters, what I care about matters, and I get to choose. That Tuesday morning, the empty one, the quiet one, isn't the end of something. It's the beginning. The beginning of learning who you are when no one's defining you. The beginning of discovering what you actually enjoy. The beginning of building a life that's small enough to be yours and big enough to hold everything that matters. Tom told me something I keep thinking about. He said, I spent 40 years climbing a ladder, and I got to the top, and I looked around and realized, I don't care about the view from here. I care about what's happening down there in my backyard with my grandson. That's wisdom. Linda said something similar. She said, I thought retirement would feel like an ending, but it doesn't. It feels like someone finally handed me a pen and said, you can write whatever you want now. Your choice, that's what this is really about. Choosing every day, every moment, choosing what to pay attention to, choosing what to care about, choosing who to spend time with, choosing what to let go of and what to hold on to. And yes, some days you'll choose wrong. Some days you'll feel lost. Some days that question, now what, will feel overwhelming. But other days you'll wake up and pour your coffee and sit down at the table and notice the light coming through the window. And you'll think, this is enough. And it will be. Not because you've achieved something or figured everything out, but because you've learned to be here, to be present in your own life. That's what they don't tell you about finding meaning after 50. They make it sound like a quest. But the truth is simpler. Meaning is here, in the birds on your porch, in the conversation with your neighbor, in the project you're building with your grandchild, in the way the afternoon light falls across your kitchen. It's in the no you finally said, in the yes you chose carefully, in the person you're becoming now that you have space to become anything at all. So take a breath, trust the process, and know this. Your most meaningful chapter might just be the one you're writing right now. Not because it's the biggest or the boldest, but because it's yours. Finally, completely, honestly yours. And that's enough. That's everything. Thank you for reflecting with me. I'll see you in the next one. Quiet intelligence, where awareness meets renewal.